All right, guys. Hello. As you notice immediately, not the normal setup here that I typically would have. I have a cord that is busted. At least I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that it is a cord that is busted that I have on the way, trying to get that replaced. So that's why everything's going to look like crap today. But hopefully the content will still be good here and suffice for you guys. Looks like my audio levels may be a little bit low. Let me know if you guys are having any issues with the audio levels because the whole setup now is a little bit different with the issue connecting the camera here to the computer. But man, we have a lot going on. We definitely have a lot to talk about if I can actually get to it and you aren't too distracted by how things look here. Turn it up to 11. Okay. All right. Got it cranked up a little bit more there. Hopefully that works as far as the audio goes. But we have to talk Big 12 schedule because it is coming out tomorrow. We got a tweet officially from the Big 12 within the last hour, like right before I was coming on to talk to you guys here tonight. We got a tweet from the Big 12 that it's going to drop at, I believe it was 1 o'clock. Double check that time for you. 1 o'clock Central. 1 o'clock Central time tomorrow. We will get the Big 12 schedule officially released. And TCU, of all places, jumped the gun and leaked theirs. They had it up on their website. So I guess when I say leaked, they had it up on their website. People found it, screenshot it, and we've been able to see it. So we have at least a little bit of a clue there. And I actually was coming today thinking, man, I'll go live. And I actually had been tipped off that it was going to be coming tomorrow. Not that that was any huge surprise because we had been told, hey, by the end of the month, and, you could do math and look at a calendar. You understand that we're nearing the end of the month. But I also have what I think may be a little bit of insight to what we're going to get from the schedule here. So, I don't, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not typically the guy that comes on here and says, hey, I have all this inside info. But I believe we may have something that's going to make people pretty upset with this schedule when it comes out. We will see. We will see. I could be wrong about this and what I was potentially tipped off to. But I will discuss that with you here in just a moment about what is going on with the Big 12 schedule. And, hey, we'll just take you right through the TCU schedule. I mean, why not? We got the thing released on the TCU website, so I guess that means that we need to go through it. So we will definitely do that. Get you prepared for Big 12 schedule release day tomorrow. There's also just a lot going on in the world of the Pac-12. If you saw the video that I posted earlier today, they have a big meeting going on today, and there was a big update from the Sports Business Journal about the Pac-12's TV deal that I would classify as, frankly, not great. Not great news for the Pac-12 and where things are headed. And even John Canzano seems to be hopping on board with John Wilner in the stance of like, hey, the Pac-12 needs to kind of hurry up and do something here. Little bit of antsiness, it sounds like, out of Pac-12 country. So I'll be very interested to see what that actually means when it comes down to what comes out of this meeting today. But I have not seen any updates on Twitter from John Wilner so far today. So, anyway, we can go through that. I'll go through the Sports Business Journal report. I'll read you from John Canzano's story. We can get into a little bit of Big 12 basketball as well and where things are at there. I know we've got games going on right now. Plus, big one tomorrow for my Cats going to Allen Fieldhouse taking on Kansas. So for those of you that are interested in Big 12 basketball, we can certainly talk about that as well. That's pretty much what I have planned here. It might be a little bit shorter of a live stream because of how late it is that I'm getting started here. But look, just trying to cram everything in. I'll be honest, I'm a little overwhelmed right now with all the things that I have happening in my life at the moment. And especially throwing on top of it the technical difficulties here with the camera issue that, again, I hope to have rectified tomorrow as soon as Amazon Prime can get me what I need here. We'll move forward from there. But my apologies if everything isn't quite up to standard here today. Anyway, I see a couple people have already donated here. If you are new to the channel, you guys would not understand how this typically goes. If you have been here, obviously you guys can control the content. You can control where things go here. You click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you make your voice heard. We've got over 100 people in the chat here already. So throughout the show, I'm not going to have a chance to pay attention to everything. If you want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show, donate by clicking the $ below the chat box where it says say something. It will pin it up at the top for me. Supersedes everything else in the chat. And that is, once again, how you make it on the show here tonight. Also a great way just to support the work I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis. So With that being said, I appreciate David and T. Fendia for already hopping in there. I will get to those donations in just a moment, but also if you could just like the video, I would appreciate that as well. That is one very, very easy way to help me out with the channel, totally free, just one click. You like the video, it helps me with the YouTube algorithm, helps get those numbers up, and is always, always much appreciated. You can also leave a comment under the video as well, and that also will help me. So I much appreciate that. And if you're catching it after the fact, you can support the channel on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo in order to do that. So that's what I got for you. That's the lineup. Let's get off and running. We have a couple of people that have already hopped in and donated here, and I much appreciate you. T. Fendia says, thanks for being awesome for Big 12 News. Well, hey, my pleasure. And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your support. As always, all of you guys working with my schedule here lately. I really appreciate you guys consistently showing up and being here and loving the Big 12, man. Loving the Big 12. David, what's up, David? David says, what's up, Kurtz? And I appreciate it, David. Says, just jumping on quick to donate and show some love. The Cyclones are playing, so I'll watch your show on replay. Keep up the content. Yes, the Clones are playing right now. I saw someone talking to Caleb. Caleb Grill has 5 threes, huh? Man, Caleb Grill, I thought, broke himself in the K-State game last week. Let's see. Sorry if the screen shakes a little bit here while I type. I'm just going to go glance at this score real quick. We've got Texas and Baylor, 28-22. Texas over Baylor. And Iowa State up 15, 31-16 at Texas Tech on the road, man. The line was very interesting on that game, where I think Tech closed as like a – was it that Tech was a 2.5 point? Maybe Iowa State was like a 2.5 point favorite. But it was a closer line than you would probably expect in that situation. And Iowa State, I'm sure, embarrassed by the performance on Saturday, which was not very good at Missouri. But David, I appreciate you making some time. I appreciate you popping in. And enjoy the rest of your Clones hoops game. And then hope you enjoy the content coming up after that on the channel here. Browns and Beers. What's up, Browns and Beers? Thank you for your support. Always much appreciated. Browns and Beers says, congrats to the conference on crushing the Big 12 SEC Challenge. Excited to finally see the schedule along with many. Bengals were too overconfident, and it cost them. Good luck to the Chiefs. Hey, great update all the way around there, Browns and Beers. If you're going to give me an excuse to talk about the Chiefs, obviously I will. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you've seen way too much of that in the past 24 hours, I'm sure. But I am a very happy Chiefs fan right now. That was about, outside of the Super Bowl win, that was the most satisfying win, I think, in this 5-year run the Chiefs have had of hosting AFC Championship games because of all the buildup with the Bengals and the fact that it was such a nemesis. I mean, it had taken me from cocky Chiefs fan John to just like totally vexed and perplexed. What is going on, Chiefs fan John? Unfortunately, with losing 3 straight to the Bengals. So that was one that I wanted badly. And we got it. We got it, baby. So looking forward to the Super Bowl coming up in a couple of weeks. But Browns and Beers, thank you for your support. We're going to hop into that Big 12 schedule topic here in just a moment. But good morning, USA. Good morning, USA. What is up? Good morning, USA. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Good morning, USA wants the inside info on the schedule. Nice use of emoji. We don't get a lot of emoji usage around here. So I can appreciate that. Good morning, USA. Sincerely, thank you for your support. Thank you for everything. And I know you say thanks for all you do, but thank you for being here and being a loyal viewer and somebody that supports the channel. You know what? Let's go ahead and get to it. Good morning, USA. I feel like you deserve it. So let me hop right into the schedule info. Okay. So here's what I know for sure. What we know for sure is that the schedule is coming out tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central. The Big 12 released that in a tweet. It was literally, I was texting with someone like, hey, do we know for sure that this is coming out tomorrow? And then literally it's like that instant I saw the Big 12 release that tweet. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about whether or not that's totally confirmed or not. I know that we're getting the Big 12 schedule. I do believe that the holdup here has been Texas and Oklahoma, and I don't think that is any kind of surprise, especially once we started seeing some of the reporting about potential early exit coming for Texas and OU in the 2024 thing and all of that. That was pretty easy to piece together. So, yes, I do believe that is a part of it, and I believe it was even Dennis Dodd at CBS Sports who first started reporting some of that. Like, hey, here's how the Big 12 could use the money from Texas and OU leaving early to kind of circumvent the schools that are now having to cough up a little bit of money in the short term for the newcomers in the Big 12 next year, and make everybody whole. But I think even beyond that, I think some of this is about. Let me frame it this way. We will see. I hope I'm wrong about this. I could be wrong about this, and this is where again I try not to be the like, hey, breaking news, inside info guy. I covered the league. I covered K-State around the league for 10 years. I'm not somebody with like crazy high sources everywhere, but I think there is a chance, and this would be what I'm just waiting for 1 o'clock tomorrow, because I think Twitter will go pretty nuclear if this happens. And I would feel terrible, certainly for all the 4 incoming schools if this were to happen. But I think there is a chance that Texas and Oklahoma do not play any of the 4 new schools this upcoming year. I think that is a possibility, and I think that could have been a part of the holdup here, is Texas and Oklahoma thinking that they are above having to play any of the new schools, which would just, I know, take away a lot of the intrigue for the new schools, and they definitely want their shot at Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, I think they certainly deserve to get a shot at Texas and Oklahoma. If we're talking about, bylaws and by the books and what's happened here. I mean, look, the league with Texas and Oklahoma still in it. They're not out yet. With Texas and Oklahoma still in it here, the league voted to expand, which they obviously had to once Texas and Oklahoma put the league in that position by heading for the SEC. And Texas and Oklahoma did not technically vote in that, but even if they had, would have been overruled, and the Big 12 would have added the schools that they added. And then Oklahoma and Texas have not been able to climb out of the conference yet. So it would make all the sense in the world, right? That Texas and Oklahoma would have to go play whatever schedule the Big 12 doles out here and whatever they deem to be the most fair for all parties involved. But I believe there is a chance that that is not going to be the case. And if it's any indication, I mean, trying to piece together all this stuff is really, really difficult. But TCU's schedule, which was leaked, and I promise you, this is one thing I'm going to work on too. I'm going to try and get up my streaming game here, maybe hop onto StreamYard like some other people use so that I can show you my screen sometimes. And I think that would be a really helpful piece. And this is one time that I really wish I could to show you TCU's schedule. But they have both Texas and Oklahoma on the schedule. And so that, at least to me, was like a tip off, like, okay, if that's going to be the case, maybe there is something to the thought that Texas and Oklahoma are going to avoid everybody else, because then I think I have not gone through the math in my head of how all this would work. But if that were the case, then I would think that everybody else in the league, the remaining 8 schools, are all going to have to play them, right? Like, it would basically be they just get kind of a normal sort of schedule. It makes my head hurt trying to piece together how all of that would work if that is indeed going to be the case. But it would suck. Look, I mean, I think no matter what happens here, it's pretty clear Texas and Oklahoma certainly feel above playing in this 14-team league, which is quite rich for a couple of schools that lost a combined what? Oklahoma went 6-7, lost a combined 12, 13 games last year. That's pretty rich to be thinking that you're above anything or playing anybody, especially if we're thinking about Cincinnati, who has, been in the college football playoff more recently than both of those teams. Obviously, we had TCU this year make the college football playoff as well. So they've been to the playoff more recently. We've had 4 teams that have made the Big 12 championship game and played for a Big 12 championship since the last time Texas or Oklahoma did. So, yeah, it's a little ludicrous. But, you get real big and high and mighty on your own brand and try and throw your weight around. And, we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'm wrong and this is all just a moot point. And they did wind up figuring something out where they're going to be on the schedule of some of the newcomers here. But that is just a little bit that I was going to pass along a warning about that when we get ready to see the schedule tomorrow. I can go ahead and just read you down TCU's schedule that leaked. TCU, let's see, this is the back half of the schedule. I mean, one of the more interesting games, honestly, of the first week of the season is going to be TCU's game against Colorado in Fort Worth, the debut of Coach Prime, which I had forgotten was on TCU's schedule until I saw this. So that will be incredibly fascinating. So a couple of non-cons out of the chute. You've got Colorado, you've got Nichols. The other non-con is going to be on September 23rd, which is the 4th game of the year against SMU for TCU. Battle for the Iron Skillet still stays on the schedule. They're going to Houston on September 16th. So the Big 12 opener for TCU is going to be on the road at Houston. And I like that, man. I like that. That's fun. Get some real Texas vibes going deep in the heart of the state of Texas there with TCU and Houston. That was one of the first things that really hit me looking at it. Like, all right, game on. Here's the new league. We get some of these like Southwest Conference vibes going on between TCU and Houston right there. They have the SMU game, as I mentioned. First home game of the Big 12 schedule for TCU will be against West Virginia on September 30th. They will then go to Iowa State on October 7th. Turn it over. They host BYU. So BYU fans, there's one thing we know. Here are little things we can start piecing together with the info that we do have on the schedule. BYU, you are going to be in Fort Worth on October 14th. So the Cougars, in their first year in the Big 12, they're going to get a chance to take on the defending college football playoff representatives from the Big 12 conference in TCU. Then it's at K-State. So I know that my Cats are going to host TCU on October 21st, a rematch of the Big 12 championship game. Very much looking forward to that. Both teams are going to look fairly significantly different, but I think both teams still will be pretty good and in the upper half of the league. So that should be a big game in Manhattan. Then the end of the schedule gets pretty tough for TCU here. If you start looking at this from November 2nd to November 24th, and I know just judging by Twitter what I saw, some of the reaction there, I think that was sort of the initial reaction from everybody was like, damn, that is a tough end of the schedule. November 2nd, TCU is going to Texas Tech. So they're going to Lubbock. And Texas Tech, I think a lot of you know, I expect to be pretty good next year. I think Texas Tech is in line certainly to make a jump under Joey McGuire next season. So November 2nd, TCU is going to be at Texas Tech. Then November 11th, you've got Texas coming to Fort Worth. Say what you will about the Horns, and I will say plenty of things. That is going to be a really, really talented outfit. Now, getting Texas in November is always, that could be a good thing. It could be already Texas melting down and starting to fall apart if they're having another disappointing season, which has become the norm in Austin. So we'll see. But who knows? That could be Arch Manning coming to Fort Worth on November 11th. November 18th, then it is Baylor. Also a home game for TCU, but you've got that rivalry and a Baylor squad that it'll be interesting to see how Dave Aranda can actually bounce back this year. But I've got enough faith in Baylor as a program that I think they're still going to be a fairly salty team at worst. And then you end the year at Oklahoma. That's on a Friday, November 24th. So obviously Thanksgiving weekend. TCU at Oklahoma on Thanksgiving weekend on November 24th. That's a pretty fun game. And that is a game that certainly I think a lot of people, at least looking at it right now, would prognosticate could have some Big 12 title implications when TCU goes to Norman on November 24th. So that's what I got. That's what I got for you. There is the TCU schedule. The two newcomers to the league that they will play are Houston and BYU. They host BYU on October 14th. They are at Houston on September 16th. This is a pretty backloaded schedule on paper anyway for TCU, I guess, depending on what you think of Colorado. And, hey, maybe Houston fans would bristle at me saying that with that game against Houston at the beginning of the schedule. Really is like, I mean, that's you've got like 2 weeks of old Southwest Conference there with Houston and SMU back-to-back for TCU. But then, man, that close at K-State, at Texas Tech, against Texas, against Baylor, at Oklahoma. 3 of the last 5 on the road against K-State, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma. 3 teams that I think will be top half of the league. And then home games against Texas and Baylor. That is not an easy way to end the schedule for TCU. But, I mean, hey, you could look at it like certainly a chance to build some momentum like TCU did this past year by getting off to that unbeaten start until, of course, they got to the Big 12 championship game. So there we go. That's kind of the info that I have for you on the Big 12 schedule as of right now. We will get the entire thing once again at 1 o'clock Central tomorrow. So no matter what, that's going to be there will be plenty of things said. There will be lots of excitement. There will be some nervous energy, and there is definitely going to be some complaining. I can definitely assure you of that. That regardless of what happens with Texas and Oklahoma and whether or not they're going to play these newcomers, people are going to complain. People are going to think they got gypped. People are going to think it's not fair. One thing I forgot to add on the TCU schedule: they're not playing Oklahoma State. If you paid close enough attention to garner that. They're not going to have Oklahoma State on the schedule. They do not have Kansas on that schedule either. So there are a couple of the traditional Big 12 schools that they are going to miss. It does kind of suck that we don't get TCU Oklahoma State. That was obviously a a fabulous game this year. It was where Oklahoma State's season started to fall apart. So I know Cowboy fans don't need any reminding of that and probably don't want me talking about that. But that was a great game and two very good programs here in the Big 12. So that is a bit of a bummer that we will not get that game. But there you go. If you guys have more questions about it or you want to tell me about who it is that you're most looking forward to seeing on the schedule, your thoughts on what you're anticipating the most with the schedule drop coming at 1 o'clock tomorrow, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something, and you can weigh in that way with a comment that helps support the work that I'm doing here on the channel as well. David, what's up, David? David, I appreciate the support. Thank you for being here. David said just paid for my 50-yard line BYU seats for 2023, looking for who BYU will play. Well, you're very close to finding out all of that, David. Very close to finding out all of that. It's a road game at TCU, so that, unfortunately, is not going to be a game that you see from your seats. But you can already – I'll tell you this, David, you can bookmark October 14th as a Saturday where, I don't know, you need to get something done with the wife, the family, the kids, whatever it might be. That's going to be a road game, so you won't be attending a game. Well, unless you want to go to Fort Worth. And, hey, definitely can have some fun in Fort Worth. I would. You guys know the joke I'm about to crack. This is where I have to put a governor on myself sometimes and, like, chill. But, just watch out for the flying beer. Watch out for the flying beer by the student section, and you'll be okay. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, TCU fans. You know I love you. You know I love you. Boom to the Sooner. Boom to the Sooner coming in with some well-deserved smack talk here. You've earned this one, Boom to the Sooner. Thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. Boom to the Sooner says, shout out to the 8th best team in the Big 12 standings, dropping bombs on the number 2 Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team. I was there, and it was epic. Congratulations, Boom to the Sooner. That was a hell of a performance. Did not see that coming. I could have seen Oklahoma winning the game, but winning the game in the fashion that they did, I absolutely did not see coming. Although I will admit, I was watching Bama a little bit earlier in the week last week. Who were they playing? Well, I think it was Mississippi State, and Mississippi State was actually beating them early on. I don't know who wound up winning that game, but they didn't look that impressive to me because that's why I stopped to watch. I was like, all right, if these guys are really the best team in the country or one of the best teams in the country, let me just stop and watch this because I have not watched any real Alabama or Auburn basketball, and it still kind of confounds me that they are as good as they are. So they didn't impress me a ton. Look, I'm happy for you, Boom to the Sooner. I'm happy for the league. Definitely speaks volumes about this league and where it's at, that actually happened, that the 8th best team in the Big 12 just bombed the number 2 team in the country in Alabama. Kansas won at Kentucky. A lot of good. K-State dominated Florida. I think the Big 12 in general is pretty impressive across the board with a couple of blips on the radar. I mean, look, TCU just banged up, man. I mean, without Miles and Lampkin at one point in that game, it's hard to fault them too terribly much for what went on there. Iowa State, I can fault all day. Now, it seems like the clones are back on their game tonight in Lubbock so far from what we have seen. But anyway, yes, Boom to the Sooner. You deserved a moment in the sun there, and thank you for doing that for the league. On your way out the door, just crush your fellow league brethren in Alabama, who you're about to be playing with on a yearly basis in the SEC, and chalk one up for the Big 12 there to win the final Big 12 SEC Challenge. Maybe we should have done a whole show on that. Rest in peace to the Big 12 SEC Challenge, this shoehorned thing into the middle of conference play, which has always seemed a little bit weird and a little bit anticlimactic to me, when really what I would rather be seeing is just more conference basketball. But ESPN has loved it for programming and, pitting the two leagues together. And I suppose on a certain level it has been fun. But anyway, rest in peace to the Big 12 SEC Challenge. R-Web. All right, R-Web is going to start pushing us toward the direction of the Pac-12, which is what I have a lot of information locked and loaded, ready to go on. He says the silence from Phoenix is deafening. That is where Pac-12 presidents, athletic directors, and other execs are meeting right now in light of concerns about a TV deal, in light of potential expansion, and of course, most recently, in light of scandal that is going to cost them $2 million per school to pay back Comcast, who they apparently owe $50 million and had to fire 2 high-ranking executives because of it, because they found this out years ago and never did anything about it. R-Web, I'm going to run through the rest of the donations here real quick that I have, and then we will hop back into that, because the update that actually I've got to give credit to my guy R-Web for hitting me up on Twitter to let me know about the Sports Business Journal, their latest update on the Pac-12 TV situation. just seems like everything lately is kind of trending toward a slightly negative direction for the Pac-12, even from its most trusted allies in John Wilner and John Canzano, that at least they are reflecting that there is a sense of unease within the conference at the fact that there has not been a TV deal struck yet by George Kliavkov. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Still water. And I'm not saying still water. It is still water, as in first name, last name. That is very well done. I would have to imagine you're an Oklahoma State fan. I also love throwing out some vibes. That's all Stillwater wants to say, just vibes. You know what, Stillwater? Some good vibes. Thank you for bringing the good vibes here to the chat tonight. I appreciate you, my friend. Daniel, what's going on, Daniel? Daniel says, Wilner said the Pac-12 had a 33% chance of not surviving outside of Oregon and Washington. Who has value for a Big 12 pickup? I see Berkeley, Stanford, Oregon State, Washington State being left out. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody except for, unfortunately, probably Oregon State and Washington State would have value for the Big 12. Like Stanford would have a lot of value for the Big 12. I don't think it would ever happen. I mean, I think Stanford would give up football before they would join the Big 12. I don't know. I guess maybe I could be wrong on that, but I think they are way too stuffy for it. Probably so in Berkeley too, but I don't really care. Cal. I've got no use for Cal. No offense. I really have no use for Cal. They do, they're in a bigger market. That's the one reason I don't include them quite in that same group as Oregon State and Washington State. Again, with plenty of empathy for Oregon State and Washington State being schools that are in a very similar position to, obviously, my squad. But yeah, I think you can find some value. And then we're talking four corners, Oregon, Washington, and then the four that you're listing there. Are we at the entire league at that point? I think we are, right? So Cal, some value there because of the media market, but the sports do absolutely nothing for me. I just really don't care for them very much. Oregon State and Washington State have been very competitive in football here lately, but I don't think they're bringing a ton of value to you overall. And I think we've already discussed the four corner schools often enough to realize the value that I think most people would see in them coming to the Big 12. So yeah, I think there's a lot there. And that is not a change. I know it may be a little staggering to see right off the top. Like John Wilner said, the Pac-12 had a 33% chance of not surviving. That is, by the way, the same percentage that he's had this at for a while. He continues to say, hey, nothing has changed. Projection is still the same. He views it as, he uses the analogy of it's a 5.5 point favorite. Survival is a 5.5 point favorite over extinction for the Pac-12 right now. And that's where he still has it. And to him, that is a 2/3, 1/3, 67% chance of surviving versus a 33% chance of not surviving. So while he is starting to say, he even wrote a column that I read to you guys fairly recently here on the show, wrote a column saying hey, the Pac-12 does need to figure something out because you just don't want to take chances in realignment, even if it feels like there's no real need to or no sense of urgency right now to get something done ASAP. It would still behoove them to do so. And even Wilner is starting to reflect that message. So appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you for chiming in there. Let's see. Provo Cougar fan says, don't care who we are scheduled to play. Just very happy to be in the Big 12. Besides, no Utah. That is true. That is true. And I'm glad to hear that, honestly, Provo Cougar fan. And I hope that most new Big 12 fans will be okay with that if they do not get a Texas or Oklahoma on their schedule, that it will still be new and fun and exciting. And hey, just getting a jump on more of the rivalries of schools that you're actually going to be playing year in, year out, instead of a one-off against a Texas or an Oklahoma. So it's a great attitude to have. We could all use more of it. So please spread that, Provo Cougar fan. Please continue to spread good vibes. Speaking of good vibes, those are good vibes. That is practicing gratitude. That is everything that we should all be doing in life, right? So Provo Cougar fan has the right idea. Everybody follow his lead. Robert, what's up, Robert? Robert says, all Big 12 quarterback Super Bowl. First Oklahoma quarterback to play in a Super Bowl. Go Chiefs. Wreck 'em. Yes, the Big 12 kind of took over the NFL playoffs, right? Tough one for Brock Purdy, and I saw that he's out, 6 weeks or something? So he had a pretty significant injury there. It's just a freak game for the 49ers. I mean, no tears here from me for the 49ers there, but that did suck, and it created kind of a miserable viewing experience for the rest of us that wanted to actually see a good game before the Chiefs and Bengals gave us a fantastic game. But yeah, in the Super Bowl, you're going to have Jalen Hurts v. Patrick Mahomes. Now, there's been a lot of internet debate surrounding who could actually claim Jalen Hurts. Totally fine allowing Oklahoma and Alabama to both claim Jalen Hurts. Just let him do it. He clearly still likes and respects both schools. It's a new era. You're just going to have to get used to that. It's not just going to be one guy gets one school. Okay, we're going to have a lot of this moving forward now in college football and the NFL. So you best get used to it. But yeah, gotta love that, man. Gotta love that. Some good publicity for the Big 12 either way. Personally, I would love to see a certain quarterback pick up his second Super Bowl title and start building a resume as potentially the greatest of all time. Wouldn't that be better for the Big 12 if you can just have the guy that is the greatest to ever play the game? If we could get that someday and have that be synonymous with Patrick Mahomes, that's all I'm saying. Okay, Jalen Hurts, I got no real problem with, except on February 12th. I will certainly have a problem with him then. Alan, what's up, Alan? Alan says, John, belated congrats to the Cats win over the Jayhawks. Still hurts, but great respect due to KSU and Coach Tang, a class act. See you in Lawrence for the rematch. Beware the fog. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Alan. Alan, I appreciate your support sincerely, as always, my friend. I am very much looking forward to the game tomorrow, kind of. And when I say kind of, it is because you know as well as I do, Alan, how those games typically transpire in Allen Fieldhouse. I am of two minds going into this game. One, I think K-State's a legitimate top 10 to 15 team. I think they're very good. I think Kansas has proven to be very vulnerable this year, even at home, getting blasted by TCU. They were down 10 with 5 minutes to go to Oklahoma. Again, as was mentioned earlier, the 8th best team in the conference. They were trailing by 15 at halftime to Oklahoma State. Iowa State took them down to a one-possession game at the end at Allen Fieldhouse. There's every reason to believe that K-State is good enough to make this a game and have it be a really, really good basketball game tomorrow night on ESPN Plus, but with John Shambi and Jay Billis on the call, by the way, which is very, very interesting. However, I've just seen too many times how this movie goes. I went a couple of times when I was a young whippersnapper in college, and I really wanted to go see the games when K-State had the Frank Martin teams. I mean, I watched K-State's best team, the 29-18, go to Allen Fieldhouse and get blitzed pretty good. And it always felt like down 15 by the first media timeout. Whenever K-State had better teams that seemingly got Kansas's attention, never came anywhere close to working out the way that I actually wanted it to in Allen Fieldhouse. Some of the Bruce Weber teams that were, just okay or not that great came pretty close to winning in Allen, but never actually got it done. So I'm just much the same way that I kind of was about the Bengals going into that game for the Chiefs. Just sort of throw my hands up like, I mean, whatever. I don't feel great about it, even if my head tells me that I probably should. And hey, worked out pretty well for the Chiefs. I don't know. Maybe Marquise Noel can go Patrick Mahomes on Kansas tomorrow. We shall see. But Alan, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your support as always. If you guys want to be like Alan and you want to be like the others that have hopped in already here and make your voice heard on the chat tonight, you can click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. In order to hop in order to get your comment on the chat, it will hop it up to the top over everything else. Supersede it all. And I am so grateful that I have as many people, over 300 here in the chat tonight, that are hanging out despite, if you are just joining me, difficulties that I'm having with my camera right now. I believe it's an issue with a cord that I have coming that is supposed to arrive tomorrow. So hopefully this will just be a one-off with the crappy setup here and not looking as good. But appreciate you guys sticking it out even through that, which I can imagine might be a little bit distracting here. And I try to take pride in how things look. I need to take more pride in how things look. So this is going to be a nice kick in the butt to me to hopefully get my setup improved, make the setup even better for you guys. All right. The Sports Business Journal has something to say about the Pac-12 TV deal here. And you guys have already heard from R. Webb briefly in the chat tonight, but I have to give him another shout out for tipping me off about this. And he is very good about staying on top of everything that's going on and tipping me off on a lot of things that are happening here. But of course, this is all with the subtext, with the backdrop of the Pac-12 athletic directors, presidents, and other executives meeting along with George Kliavkov in Arizona this week for a quarterly meeting that was moved up, although a lot of the reports are saying it was kind of just moved up, not really for a specific reason other than they have a lot to talk about right now, but it was also just to sort of more evenly break up the calendar. Either way, here's what John Ourand of the Sports Business Journal, or Andrew Marchand, rather, of the Sports Business Journal wrote about the Pac-12 TV deal. Says the Pac-12 TV deal is something to watch because, well, I think it has some suitors in Amazon, ESPN, and Fox Sports. The sense I keep getting is none of them view it as a must-have. So where does the conference find leverage? In theory, it could look outside those three, but all others come with issues, namely exposure, because NBC, CBS, and Apple TV Plus would want to make it mostly a streaming deal if they were even interested. Now, that's a loaded first paragraph, man. That is a loaded first paragraph. It says, the sense I keep getting is none of Amazon, ESPN, and Fox Sports view the Pac 12 as a must have. So, where does the conference find leverage? This has been a talking point for a while. Like, where is the leverage here, especially now that the Big 12 has a deal locked up? Where is the leverage for the Pac 12 on all of this? I would say that the common thought has kind of been drilled into us that, hey, Amazon would probably overpay. Like, kind of the Pac 12 talking point has been Amazon would likely overpay just because they're not the traditional TV model, right? It's not all about advertising. It may be for them about subscriptions, just getting more people in to use their other products. They might have other motives that would make them more open to overpaying for the product just to gain all of those potential subscribers that would come in. But if they don't view it as a must-have, which, I mean, I'll be honest, the longer this goes, the more and more you have to assume that these networks and companies don't view it as a must-have. You do start losing leverage. And the longer it goes, you kind of get more antsy and more desperate, and there's less reason for these TV networks to really bow or cave to whatever your demands might be. The story goes on. Apple, of course, doesn't have a broadcast network. Well, NBC has its new primetime Big Ten games starting in the fall, and Notre Dame home games in the afternoon. And CBS has afternoon Big Ten broadcasts. Maybe there's an opening for a Saturday night Pac-12 schedule on broadcast TV, but it doesn't feel like a match, at least not for big money. The Pac-12 may find more exposure in its next media rights deal as part of a streaming package more than on traditional broadcasts, many of which have already been scheduled with other conference games. So, yeah, getting at some of the issues there, and this is where it's like, the Pac-12 has been trying to preach this message of like, hey, we have a lot of time. There's no sense of urgency because everybody else or nobody else is in line. Everybody else already has their stuff locked up. And this is kind of the other side of it. Yeah, everybody else already has their stuff locked up. There's less of an inventory need out there for the networks. And it's because that they already have all of these things blocked off with the entities that they already have as far as live college football is concerned. More from the Sports Business Journal. Says the idea of Amazon Prime Video taking on the tonnage. I believe that's tonnage. The idea of Amazon Prime Video taking on the tonnage of the Pac-12 may not fully line up unless it is at the right price. Amazon doesn't have a linear lineup to fill out, so it doesn't need programming. Great point, and that's such a simple thing, but I feel like that has not been discussed enough here when we've thought about Amazon. Like, again, when you're talking about leverage and whether or not they need to bow into any demands of the Pac-12, like they don't have to have the programming. They can just punt and say, that's fine, and move on and go about their day. They don't have all of these time slots that they absolutely have to fill like a TV network would, which is pointed out next. ESPN and Fox Sports do, but between their other deals, ESPN with the SEC, ACC, and Big 12, and Fox Sports with the Big 10 and Big 12, they don't necessarily need the extra games the Pac-12 would provide. Again, don't necessarily need the extra games. So if it's not a necessity, it's just a nice to have, not a need to have, that's when you're not going to be willing to pay as much. That's when you don't have any leverage there because you can legitimately step away from the table and say, hey, you're trying to get $35 million per school to one up the Big 12. Not at that price. Not at that price. We'll be okay. Would be nice to have if I can get it at a discount, but if not, don't care. We don't need it that badly. With the economy in question, no one is looking to break the bank. Amazon did well with Thursday Night Football, but beyond the obvious fact that the NFL is a far different animal than the Pac-12, Thursday Night Football also is a standalone game. Pac-12 matchups are in competition with endless other college football games. There are going to be deals to be made for the Pac-12, but will they be strong enough to stave off more realignment, especially with the Big 12's agreement with ESPN allowing for further payments if Power 5 schools are added? All right, so there's a little more confirmation on the pro rata clause, pro rata clause of the Big 12 contract that if Power 5 schools are added, then all of a sudden there would be more payments with ESPN in that Big 12 TV deal. Finally, the Sports Business Journal closes out here. The Pac-12 should be able to get close to the nearly $32 million per school that the Big 12 received, but the Pac-12 will have to realize that is more the comp, not the Big 10. On top of all this, the Pac-12 may owe Comcast $50 million for overcharging. Not good. So literally the final words of this blurb are not good. That's the tone of what the Sports Business Journal has to say about the Pac-12. And that's an important paragraph at the end there on both sides. I will frame this on both sides for pro Big 12 people, total Big 12 homers, and total Pac-12 homers. So the Pac-12 should be able to get close to the nearly $32 million per school that the Big 12 receives. So that is saying that even with all these issues, it's not like the Pac-12 is going to come out at $15 million per school and be drastically behind everybody financially to the point where it's a slam dunk that the Four Corners and whoever, Oregon, Washington, are just going to jump to the Big 12 and the Pac-12 will be done. No, it's not that bad. It's not that dire. But at the same time, all the Pac-12 noise has been, well, it's going to top the Big 12. We've seen that from Wilner. We've seen that from Canzano for a while now, that like they were expecting kind of mid-30s, something that would be slightly above what the Big 12 got. And I had even kind of fallen into an acceptance level of that. Like, okay, that will be their PR win. Hey, we got more money per school than the Big 12 did. But in the back of my mind thinking, yeah, but at what cost? And the cost is going to be obviously exposure. And how much is that going to hurt you over the course of time, losing out on that exposure? That will be the real question. So, but this is even pointing out it might be. So what you could have happened here is a loss of exposure and say $30 million per school, where you're still a little bit behind the Big 12. And now, again, well, not a significant amount of monetary difference there between the two leagues. Now you're really starting to open the door for, all right, our school is going to get a wandering eye. Will in Arizona get a wandering eye? If they're going to lose exposure, particularly for their basketball program, and now see that look, Cleve Covey didn't even deliver on getting us more money per school, well, limiting the exposure. So I would say that is generally not the most positive update in the world for the Pac-12. Certainly not a death knell. I still would expect them to get something done, even as tricky as I think the grant of rights may be. And I still believe that is not talked about enough. I still think they're going to get something done, but we've seen the tenor really start to change even from within the Pac-12 propaganda machine, as we jokingly and lovingly refer to it sometimes. But Wilner kind of put that time frame on of like, hey, by the end of March, like if there's nothing done basically in a couple of months, then you should really start sounding the alarms on what's going on here with the TV deal. So that is more time, but the clock is ticking. And this is in some ways a similar situation to like the Big 12 schedule, where you're like, why is the Big 12 schedule not come out? I saw it pointed out by, I think it was Heartland College Sports, that we're about 2 months behind when we typically get the Big 12 football schedule. That doesn't just happen. Clearly there's something going on. Now, a big part of that is just the new schools being in the mix, having to organize a 14-team schedule. All of that's going to be more difficult, but I think we all are smart enough to realize probably other things happening too, like that early exit, perhaps Oklahoma and Texas fighting to not play any of the new schools on their schedule. And all of that can contribute to it as well. So it's the same deal here. Like, why has this not happened? It would seem to make sense. It would have stood to reason that they would already have something locked up and have something done as far as their TV deal is concerned. There must be some kind of issue, something happening behind the scenes here. And I do believe that there is something going on there with the Pac-12. And like our guy R. Webb said earlier, silence a little bit deafening out of the Pac-12 now. I mean, I'm going to double check John Wilner's Twitter right now just to make sure I haven't missed anything in the last hour or so, but there was nothing out of those meetings going on in the Pac-12 from him so far. And yeah. Okay, we've got one tweet from 7 minutes ago. I guess it's a good thing that I checked. John Wilner says, not expecting any news out of the board meetings. Presidents were updated. My guess, all right, here's a guess from John Wilner. You guys ready for this? We usually don't get live information like this. Says, my guess, media rights deal is a few weeks away, maybe a bit longer. Okay. All right. Media rights deal still a few weeks away, maybe a little bit longer. Kind of a hedge and leaving the door wide open for this continuing to go on and on and on. And even Canzano. Let me read you a little bit of Canzano here. I'm gonna throw out a 5 to 10 minute warning here on the chat. So if you want to get something in, make sure you do it now. Click the $sign below the chat box where it says say something to make your voice heard. We'll pin it up at the top of the chat for me and ensure that you get on the show here tonight. Here we go. This is John Canzano. He starts out by saying, I hope they find some focus, also urgency. As much as I enjoy uncovering palace intrigue, What the Pac-12 needs most of all right now is to emerge unified, galvanized, focused, and holding a couple of major victories. I don't disagree with anything he has said so far right there. It does seem like they need some more urgency. It does seem like they need some more focus. And the Pac-12 would absolutely serve themselves well to come out unified, galvanized, focused, and with a couple of major victories. But I would love to emerge from my week this week dating Megan Fox. I would love to emerge dating Megan Fox. My life would be vastly improved if that were the case. Sorry, Machine Gun Kelly. But unfortunately, that does not seem like a very realistic possibility. Anyway, more from Canzano. He says, my original projection for the Pac-12 media rights deal with some help from key industry sources put the conference annual media rights distribution in the neighborhood of 27 to 29 million per school. That would have put the Pac-12 about 10 to 15% behind what the Big 12 eventually negotiated. However, when the Big 12 announced its media deal, I was told immediately by a high-ranking Pac-12 exec, we are very confident we can beat that number. That made me wonder how the future of the Pac-12 network might factor into the financials. There's just no way to easily build a case to beat the Big 12's annual distribution number without using the conference-owned network as the hammer. Would the Pac-12 sell the network to ESPN, lease its live sports production arm to Amazon, YouTube, or Apple, or do something else? Interesting speculation there, and I would just say I don't know how much it really factors in that the Pac-12 network has become an even bigger disaster with the recent news here, but I would certainly think that couldn't help as far as negotiations are concerned here. And it's interesting that the Pac-12 network could potentially be something that puts them over the top, but use whatever you have at your disposal. I would not blame the Pac-12 for that at all. And that is something they have that the Big 12 obviously does not, is a conference network. It has been an albatross on the league for a while now in Pac-12 country, but it is there. And if you can sell it for scraps, you can just get parts, you can sell it to the chop shop, whatever you want to do. That's something that you probably should do. But let's go back to even the first part of this. I hope they find some focus, also urgency. The Pac-12 needs to emerge unified, galvanized, focused, and holding a couple of major victories. This is Canzano, not Wilner. So usually you're getting an even more rosy pro Pac-12 over-the-top point of view here from him. Starting to see cracks in the armor. And this is a guy, I don't doubt that he's talking to a lot of people within the Pac-12. And I think the reflection of both the tone that he and Wilner are putting out there now is indicative of some antsiness within the Pac-12, some antsiness within some of those schools in the Pac-12 about how long it is taking to get a media deal done, holding up expansion, holding up what should be an obvious slam dunk move to go get San Diego State, and then maybe somebody else, but at least San Diego State right now for the Pac-12. I would certainly have some questions about that if I were in Pac-12 country right now. And even the greatest allies are starting to at least move a little bit in that direction. Calico Willie, what's up, Calico? Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate you. It's always great to see you, my friend. Calico Willie says, hi, John. I'm a little disappointed K-State KU isn't on Big Monday or a real network. Thoughts on the conversation at the end of the Florida game? You might have to elaborate on the Florida game conversation for me there. I'm not totally sure what you're referring to. I was at the game, but with about a minute left, and this is not what I would typically do, but it was thanks to the company that I was with like a minute left in the game. We actually left a little bit early. So I wasn't watching on TV if it was something there and if it was something that happened actually at the game. I think it was like, I don't know, it sounded like Tang and Golden got a little crosswise with each other about Florida still pressing. And I don't know if it's that, Calico, just let me know. But I did not get like a full grasp on what was happening there at the end. As far as K-State KU, look, here's the deal. The Big 12 does this every year. I think K-State or KU Iowa State earlier this year was on ESPN Plus. They'll tuck away a couple of these matchups that they know are going to draw eyeballs and have loyal, dedicated fan bases that are not going to miss the game. And they do that because they know they're going to get subscriptions from it. Like K-State and Kansas fans are not going to miss the K-State KU game, particularly this year. So they want subscriptions. They want people to go buy their product. They know that that's an easy way to go make that happen. So that's why you see it happen. I would also just say that it was the beginning of the year when the schedule was made. We got the schedule before we knew what K-State was going to be this year. It was when the expectations were still very low. So I'm sure the thought here was like, all right, two fan bases that are definitely going to watch the game, rivalry game, but it's also going to be a blowout in Allen Fieldhouse because K-State's going to be the worst team in the Big 12 this year. And, so we don't need to worry about it too much. So that's the other thing to keep in mind about that. I mean, look, am I thrilled that it's not on like a major network? No, especially after we saw over 1.5 million people watched the first K-State Kansas game. It's a missed opportunity there for ESPN, but they're trying to make up for it as much as they can, I suppose, by putting Shambi and Jay Billis on the call for that game. Just a matter of how many people are actually going to see them. And this honestly is kind of like a test case for what the Pac-12 may be going through here. You're going to have a big matchup. Now, football, you get a different element of this, which is being able to iron out those TV times and what network it's going to be on as the season goes along. So you're probably less likely to encounter something like this, but you still could. And, if you're going to run like Oregon, this is not going to be Oregon USC. If you're going to run like Oregon Utah and it gets stuck on Amazon Prime or something, and it's up against tough competition, or people actually going to go out of their way to go try to look at that. Similar kind of conversation that the Pac-12 could be having here. Okay, Calico, I see Tang's chat with Florida's coach. Yeah, I wish that I could give you more because I really didn't see it. It was my intention to go back and watch the full TV broadcast of the game here at some point, but just have not had. Life is hectic right now, and so many sports things happening between the Chiefs and K-State and trying to keep up with everything going on here. Just been too much. So I apologize, Calico, that I can't get you a better answer on that, my friend. But I do know, I mean, if Florida was pressing late and then Tang called a timeout, it's like, look, dude, if you're pressing, but I'm going off of just what I kind of picked up loosely. I didn't actually see it. So it's not fair of me, I think, to offer like a full-blown opinion there. What I do know is that Florida got their ass kicked. Florida got controlled handily from start to finish. And it would seem to me to be a little bit of sour grapes. I saw that Golden made a comment at the press conference too about like, it would have been nice to have a home game when he was asked what he thought about the Big 12 SEC Challenge. Like, okay, bud. It was a great atmosphere. Incredible atmosphere at Bramlage. Nice mock Gator chomp that the students gave out there. They had a nice, solid mock SEC chant as well, which I'm sure everybody here in the chat can appreciate. So, good day at Bramlage. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Daniel says, thank God. Daniel, I'm with you. Thank God the Chiefs finally beat the Bengals. Go Chiefs, beat Philly. Go Cats, beat KU. Well, you were speaking my language, Daniel. You sure know how to talk nice to a lovely young gentleman like myself. Thank you for your support as always. And thank you for your support of America's team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas State Wildcats men's basketball program. I jokingly say America's team, the Kansas City Chiefs, because I've watched an entire day today of the conversation only be about officiating because that's how much the Chiefs are hated here at this point. But boy, I am relishing in being able to talk a little bit after having to kind of be silent with the Bengals thing and Patrick Mahomes' ankle and not all of that. But instead, we get a legendary performance from Pat, legendary performance from Chris Jones, and the Chiefs are marching on to the Super Bowl. So, hey, there's room on the bandwagon. If you guys want to jump on the Chiefs bandwagon with me and Daniel, you are more than welcome to. It is never too late. I won't go look at your past tweets, anything you said, any slander towards Patrick Mahomes or the Chiefs. I will not hold it against you. You can still jump on the bandwagon if you want. No questions asked. No questions asked at all. I'll give you a little wink on that one. All right. I think that's going to do it for me tonight. Thank you for bearing with me on the crappy setup here. Again, I hate it. It really bothers me that I had to do it this way tonight. I am hopeful that the cord that I'm getting in the mail tomorrow is going to solve my problems with connecting the camera here. If not, I will. We're going to have to maybe do a full-blown redo of what it is that I'm doing here with the setup. But I'm going to try and improve things. I've been putting that off for too long. So going to try and make some time for that here as soon as possible. I see DZ, I know. Don't let it happen again. I know. I hate it. It's awful. Look, I need all the help I can get looking nice and good. And that camera that I'm still staring at right now that actually isn't doing anything right now makes me look a whole hell of a lot better than this built-in camera on my MacBook. But either way, we got through it. We made it through. We did the damn thing. Thank you guys for being here. I am off to get the rest of my life in order before doing it all again tomorrow. All right. Take care, guys. As always, spread the word, social media, word of mouth, friends, family, other Big 12 fans. Please let them know about the channel and what's going on here. Let's continue to build this community. You can donate and support the channel on Venmo. It's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. if you aren't catching this live. Please like the video. Please leave a comment on the video. All of that stuff really helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and it's totally free. Our web, I see. Check my DMs. Our web, I will head straight to the DMs as soon as I hop off here. So thank you guys. Take care, and I will talk to you all soon.